Hi everybody and welcome to today's lecture. Today, as you can see here, we're going to be studying lecture number 44, titled The I of Treason. Remember that if you have any question, any doubt about this topic or regarding this self-knowledge course, you can leave it down there in the comment section and we are going to be very happy to answer any question you may have or to clear out any doubt you may have about this topic or this self-knowledge course in general. Okay, also you're going to be finding the access link to the WhatsApp group, to our Telegram group, and to our YouTube channel. Through these groups, we send the material, the complementary material we use for these conferences, for these lectures, for free, totally. And also you can communicate directly with any of the instructors and ask anything you may be needing to ask. Okay. Well, in this conference, we are going to be studying the I of Treason, as I said before, and we will be understanding how all our defects, our psychological defects, our egos are structured through it, and how we must work on it to prevent it from hindering our inner work. Normally, to speak of treason, there must be a prior agreement that can be betrayed. So, if there is a pact that is not fulfilled, there is treason. Therefore, we will start from this base to study the treason. A pact or commitment must be violated. We, on the physical plane, know treason when, for example, a boyfriend tells a girlfriend that he's going to love her all his life, and after 15 days, for example, he's bored, okay, and he's having a new girlfriend. In fact, the groom made a promise and broke it. Then there is treason. Undoubtedly, there is betrayal when something is falsified or something is adulterated. For there to be betrayal, something must have been broken, a link, a bond, a promise, etc. This is a form of treason. The most important path that we make occurs when we leave the absolute sun in order to come to this cosmic manifestation, to achieve Christification, the intimate self-realization of our own being. Unfortunately, the vast majority become fascinated with the world and forget this commitment. However, when we get to this knowledge and commit to work, begin to practice, to do our research and verifications, we start remembering that path that we once committed to fulfill. When we get to this knowledge and are willing to do the work, we commit to work no matter what the cost is. Then we have to face the three enemies of the Christ that we all carry within us and that form that what we call the I of Treason, which has three heads: Judas, Pilatus, and Caiaphas. This is how it is pronounced, I guess. Well, the cosmic drama is not the exclusive property of the great Kabir, Jesus, as we were able to study in lecture 28 of this course. The initiates of all ages, the masters of all centuries, have had to live this cosmic drama within themselves here and now. However, Jesus, the great Kabir, had the courage to represent such an intimate drama publicly, in the street and in the light of the day, to open the meaning of initiation to all human beings without differences of race, sex, caste, or color. Certainly, Master Jesus came to show in his flesh and blood what every initiate must live within on his path to self-realization. That is why everything that happened in the life of Master Jesus has an esoteric and hidden meaning for the initiates of the Christic path. All his actions, words, even the people who accompanied him have a hidden meaning, and today we will be understanding part of it. In the deep inner work, within the terrain of the strictest psychological self-observation, we must directly experience the entire cosmic drama. The intimate Christ must eliminate all the undesirable elements that we carry within us. The multiple psychic aggregates in our psychological depths scream for crucifixion, for the Lord with it. The secret Christ is the Lord of the great rebellion, rejected by the priests, the elders, and the scribes of the temple. We have within us those priests, elders, and scribes. They will not allow us to develop that Christ, just as the priests, elders, and scribes of that time despised Master Jesus. The priests hate him. That is, they don't understand him. They want the Lord of perfections to live exclusively in time according to their unbreakable dogmas. Here we find our fanatical defects, but also our celibate defects that want to support a belief, but that also lead us to reject sex, to consider sex as something sinful. Even if we have a partner, those defects lead us to generate disharmony, so that the practice of birth, of spiritual birth, with our couple does not occur. The elders, that is the inhabitants of the earth, the good householders, the judicious people, the people of experience, hate the Logos, the red Christ, the Christ of the great rebellion, because he doesn't live in the world of their antiquated, reactionary, and petrified habits and customs. Here we find our good defects, who resist change because they see nothing wrong within themselves and therefore believe that there is nothing to change. Also, we find the scribes. They also hate the intimate Christ because he is the antithesis of the Antichrist, the declared enemy of all that rotten university theories that abound so much in the markets of bodies and souls. Here we find our intellectual defects, who want to understand with the mind what can only be understood with consciousness, okay? Besides all of this, unquestionably, each one of us carries the three traitors in our psyche. Judas, the demon of desire; Pilaris, the demon of the mind; Caiaphas, the demon of ill will. These three traitors crucified the Lord of perfections in the very depths of our soul. There are three specific types of fundamental inhuman elements in the cosmic drama. Okay, the three traitors mortally hate the secret Christ and lead him to death within ourselves and in our own psychological space, just as we saw it happen in the cosmic drama of Master Jesus. Well, we're going to be talking about Judas. Historically, Judas was a disciple of Master Jesus who sold him for 30 silver coins. It should be noted that Judas, in real life, was one of the most excellent disciples of Master Jesus, and that he knew the drama that was being carried out, since Master Jesus himself asked him to fulfill that role so that the cosmic drama could be carried out. However, Judas represents the demon of desire. He always exchanges the Lord for 30 silver coins. That is, for liquor, money, fame, vanities, fornications, adulteries, etc., etc. It is the enemy of nature. It represents all of our own desires, temptations, and fascinations in the physical world. And well, let's study this traitor in a deeper way. Desire is the source of strength because it is the fire that animates anything. If we surrender to our desires, we will be its slaves. Okay, if we deny each one of our desires, we will release that fire that is hidden in it, or we will become masters of the force. Judas sells Christ for 30 silver coins. This means that our desires sell the Christ, which is the fire, in the physical world. When we learn to deny ourselves or our desires, we begin to take ownership of the strength that is hidden in each desire. When we don't know how to deny ourselves, we go after each one of our desires in daily life. Learning to combat this traitor is very important if we want to advance in the great work. Otherwise, we will not begin the esoteric work. The Gospel of Judas says, "Blessed is he who sees in my light the light of my master." When one sees the fire, the Christ, in desire, one rescues him. When you don't see it, you lose it from moment to moment. Desire is fire, and by dying from moment to moment, we rescue it as will. Judas, or desire, is said to be the enemy of nature because he does not allow any interior creation. When we begin to deny ourselves, we begin to balance the centers, and the work of birth will bear fruit. The creative energy of the Holy Spirit will crystallize the higher existential bodies of the being. Well, you defeat this demon by denying yourself to any desire. Now we're going to talk about Pilaris. Historically, Pilaris was a Roman governor of Judea, and he was the one who condemned Jesus to crucifixion, even though he found no guilt in him, and washed his hands, leaving the people to choose between freeing Jesus or Barabbas. Pilaris, the demon of the mind, always washes his hands, always declares himself innocent, is never to blame, constantly justifies himself in front himself and in front of others, looks for evasion, escapes to avoid his own responsibilities, etc. He is the enemy of wisdom. It represents all our apologies, justifications, evasions, escapes, etc., through which we will continue to be the same. What it is to wash your hands. Whenever we are faced with any problem, we justify ourselves, we identify with the problem, we don't know how to take advantage of the situation. We always find excuses for not working, for not eliminating our psychological defects, okay? We justify them. For example, we insult some people, but we justify it by saying that the person is the one to blame because he did it first, that we had to defend ourselves and so on. And we do not observe we have a defect of anger that leads us to offend people, and we need to eliminate it. Well, this demon of the mind always finds ways out. Evasion and justifications to remain the same. The mind has the role of judging each one of our defects, of judging them with reflection, but it doesn't fulfill its job. It lives identified with all subjective processes. If we want to die, we have to stop justifying ourselves. We have to judge ourselves ruthlessly. We must not accept loopholes. We must become serious about this work. We must take the grass from the donkey. We must not feed the defects of the intellect. We must put an end to all concepts to integrate our mind. Let's remember that the best way to think is not to think. We all, with all the intellectualism, the mind degenerated and no longer understand, no longer comprehend. This demon is called the enemy of wisdom because it does not allow us to die, to practice the psychological death. Wisdom comes with death, okay? If one does not die, then there will be no wisdom. This demon prevents psychological death, as I said before. It always blames others. It lives by judging them instead of judging our own actions. It finds thousands of justifications for not letting us do the things of our being. Find all the justifications for us to continue doing the things of the ego or personality. We are going to defeat this demon by not justifying ourselves and by judging us ruthlessly. Well, now we're going to be talking about Caiaphas. Historically, Caiaphas was a Jewish high priest who felt threatened in his power by Master Jesus. So he arranged everything to lead him to crucifixion. He was the one who gave Judas the silver coins. He was the one who poisoned Pilates' mind so that he would let the people choose between Jesus or and Barabbas. He was the one who led the crowd to choose the liberation of Barabbas. Caiaphas is the demon of ill will, the enemy of the truth. It represents our words, works, and omissions in the field of deeds. He is the one who currently controls our machine and is threatened by the Christ, since when the Christ is born, he banishes him and takes charge of all our psychological processes, words, and actions. This demon is the most dangerous since it controls our will to do. Therefore, our works and the works generate karma for us. This demon leads us to have very bad will for the things of consciousness that lead us to develop our inner Christ. He wastes time on idle things that have no importance at all. He doesn't want to leave us practice anything. It leads us to want to self-realization or to self-realize ourselves without working, which is impossible, okay? So we're going to find we have very good will for wasting time, sleeping and resting, idle conversations, subjective work, to have fun and be entertained, to expel our sexual creative energy, to satisfy all our wishes, okay? But we are not going to have goodwill, for example, to establish a discipline of esoteric work, to do our practices, to meet schedules regarding the things of the interior work, to do our research about all this information we are receiving here through, for example, the practice of astral projection, okay? To eliminate our psychological defects, to practice the spiritual birth with our couple, to take time from our day to sacrifice ourselves for humanity. This demon, the enemy of deeds, is defeated with conscious sacrifice and voluntary suffering. This means doing conscious works, such as sacrifice for humanity, through which we deliver this knowledge pure and selflessly to other brothers of humanity. And the voluntary suffering that comes when we apply psychological death and decide to refuse to give pleasure to our defects by denying ourselves to the desire. These three traitors manifest themselves through three brains, or through the three brains. Judas, which is desire, manifests through the lower emotional center. It is there where we feel desire or the mood to do something. Then it goes to the lower intellectual center, where we will find all the justifications that will lead us to satisfy that desire. And then it passes to the sexual instinctive motor center, and there we move on to the action of satisfying the desire. All our defects have this same structure, okay? For example, let's imagine that we are walking down the street and we see a very pretty dress in a shop window. The desire to buy it immediately arises. Then we will begin to see the manifestations in our mind, telling us that we should buy it because we deserve it, we work very hard, we can give ourselves that pleasure, that later we will fulfill the obligations that we had to fulfill with that money, that we are going to look very attractive in that dress and that so and so is going to like us, etc., etc. Then we proceed to enter the store and buy the dress. And that's how all our defects find their way to manifest. That is why we must observe ourselves to see the desire and its sensations, the emotions and thoughts that are part of it. Having this knowledge, it is, our decision whether we let them act or not, okay? Let us now look at some betrayals of the work that occur once we have committed ourselves to do this inner work. First, when we mix this knowledge with pseudo-esoteric things, because we are adulterating it. We are turning it into something else that can lead us and others astray. Also, when we become identified with the things of the world and abandon the inner work, for example, by going after money, lust, and power, etc. Also, when we voluntarily fornicate, it is not the same that, that there is an involuntary sexual fall during the practice of suprasex, that when we voluntarily decide to give in to desire and end up fornicating. Also, when having chastity, we betray the mother by taking another partner, committing adultery. When we choose the path to nirvana. Since we are one choice away from our inner Christ being born, but we decide to take the path of the spiral, it is one of the greatest betrayals to the Christ. We need to look for the three traitors in each one of our acts of daily living and realize how we give our energy to the defects to obtain pleasure, even knowing the value of that Christic energy. We also need to observe each one of the justifications that may even seem very good and noble. And of course, we need to prevent the defects from ending up manifesting through our actions. And let us remember that all defects are judged for treason. This was today's conference. Thank you all very much for joining us, and we hope you will join us at the next conference, where we'll study what we should do so that the practices give us positive results. Until next time, and thank you very much.